there has just been an incredible Hell Let Loose developer briefing, which, to be honest, I'm pretty stunned by, because it appears they are actually listening to the community. And the massive news coming out of it is that they've begun the process of reverting back to the old sprint speed and removing the dive to prone functionality. And they say, we understand there are members of the Hell Let Loose community who will be disappointed with the decision to remove the increase in speed. Now, I'm someone that actually liked the increased sprint speed, but honestly, I'm delighted for the sake of the game that they've reverted it. So I really don't think there'll be many people at all who'll be upset by this change, even amongst those like myself that enjoyed the quicker sprint speed. Because in my opinion, it's the clearest way that they could show that they actually care what the core community thinks. At the end of the day, we all know that the main reason for increasing the sprint speed was to attract a wider audience in order to make more money. So moving away from that model and focusing more on the core community that are part of the foundation of the game is a really positive sign in my opinion. I genuinely did not think they were going to change the movement. So yeah, I am really pleased for the wider community. And this briefing is filled with great news pretty much throughout. And I am of course getting pretty carried away here. And part of me thinks I should tone it down at least until we see some of the changes they're talking about actually implemented. But the messaging now is spot on. They're going to reintroduce the public testing environment, which was massively missed for update 14. It'll definitely help them release much more polished updates in the future. I think everyone was pretty bamboozled when they decided to get rid of it. They're also working on the British forces, who were done extremely dirty when introduced. A lot of people will be pleased to hear that they're going to be introducing more historically accurate weapons and uniforms, such as desert uniforms for both the British and German forces, as well as making updates to the existing loadouts. So presumably that World War I relic rifle will no longer be the default rifle for the British. Of course, they'll also be working on fixing the British weapons, and what I really like throughout this briefing is that they're generally admitting where they're having a hard time making changes, and also they're giving us some more information on what the issues are. So they say the limitations and inadvertent impact that tweaking certain features of firearms like the Bren gun would cause is something we need to address on a wider scale, reworking and rebalancing some items from the ground up. While we don't have a full timeline for this work now, we are aiming to further tackle weapon sway, bolt handle animations and weapon fire rate, as well as ensuring all British firearms are correctly zeroed for patch 14.3. Giving that kind of information, for me at least, alleviates some of the frustrations I have as to why they aren't quicker in fixing particular issues. In fact, they even have a section in the briefing entitled "What makes some of the issues so difficult to tackle?" This is a fascinating section to me, because they say, when we are able to reproduce a bug, we can apply that knowledge to submit a fix. However, some bugs are seemingly isolated to live builds, occurring only once an update has been released. Now, I couldn't believe, like a lot of people, how untested update 14 felt when it released, and at least this potentially sheds some light on the issue. I imagine it was the case where a lot of the issues that were so obvious to us straight away, developers hadn't actually seen because they only occurred in the live build. I mean, that's not to fully excuse update 14, I'm sure they could have prepped it better, but I love hearing about why certain issues have occurred, and I really hope and would encourage them to keep this kind of dialogue going as they continue to work on the game. Another thing that I loved is that they're pushing back the new objective game mode and generally pushing back most new content until they've fixed the game. Once again, I was really worried they were just going to plow on with their schedule. I kind of thought, just overall, that their approach was going to be to leave the core community behind or not be too worried if they're dissatisfied, and instead try to build a new audience with a more arcadey and accessible game, which is why the briefing on the whole has made me so happy. But yeah, they're pushing back the smaller game mode, and they say the original 2023 roadmap will instead change focus to a slower speed of content delivery bringing you more 100-player warfare and offensive maps, alongside existing planned cosmetic DLC, as we continue to work on resolving as many bugs as possible and begin the planning for a longer-term future of Hell Let Loose alongside the community. And that almost brings a tear to my eye, that does. And there is a bit more focus as well on a training environment for new players, which the game's needed for absolutely ages, let's be honest. We all know that when there's been a free weekend, it's been brutal because new players tend to have no idea how to play the game, and there's never been a good tutorial to help them. And on that same point, they'll also be introducing a practice range, which will be a nice addition. Another recurring theme throughout this briefing is their desire to rebuild trust with the community. Of course, they highlight the mistakes they've made, in particular the last update and also the trailer. They want to provide assurances that the in-game store, which they say they can't remove at this stage as it will cause rolling production issues and potentially delay further changes due to the way it's set up. So it sounds like they want to remove the in-game store, but they can't for the reason outlined. And I think it would be good if they could remove it, at least until they focus on improving the game. But they want to point out that the store will never offer any pay-to-win items, which I don't think anyone really thought it would. But also that they won't offer non-historical cosmetics that break immersion, i.e. pink camouflage. Now, I'm not sure if that pointy Soviet gnome hat fits into the breaking immersion category. Hopefully that is the most outrageous cosmetic we'll see. We get some more info on general bugs as well, including the usual suspects, the loadout bug and the grenade bug. And honestly, there's loads more information in the brief, which I won't cover in this video, so I would encourage you guys to check it out for yourselves. But all in all, yeah, very encouraging to see. There is hope yet for Hell Let Loose. Obviously at the moment it is just words, but on the whole I'm feeling so much more optimistic about this game. Oh, and I also want to give a bit of a shout out to Wombat Medic, who's been taking the brunt of the criticism for the direction that Team 17 have been taking Hell Let Loose in, at least hopefully up until now. And another thing I almost forgot to mention was that they also touched upon the performance issues. And this was an area that I'm not going to go into because they go into a lot of depth in the actual notes, which I love to see. I really hope they keep on doing that. So they do also talk about the performance issues that we've been having, which has been a big issue for a lot of people. And hopefully we're going to start to see a return of more experienced members. And also I'm hoping they're going to communicate better with those that host servers. I know that's an issue that doesn't really get touched on too often, but from what I've heard is the people hosting servers have had really bad communication from Team 17, particularly regarding how they're going to handle smaller game modes. So hopefully that communication increases and we start to get those experienced players getting back involved in Hell Let Loose. But anyway, that's going to be it for this one. I'd love to hear your thoughts on their briefing and their thoughts on whether you think they'll actually implement these changes and how well they'll do. And of course, if you did like the video, make sure you leave a like and also think about subscribing. Cheers guys.